We don't set the price of utilities by what everybody else pays. We set the price of utilities by what it costs. Okay, and we shouldn't be satisfied with somebody raising the cost just because someone else down the road is paying it. That's an absurd statement. Yes.
When we were little kids and we did something we weren't supposed to do, and our mom and dad said, "Gee, if Billy jumped off the bridge, would you jump off the bridge too?" That's what they're asking us to do.
Absolutely. So now, and this is their question now. I haven't edited the question. This is their question. Now I would like to read you several opposing statements about the proposed Santa Clarita Valley Sanitation District Water Quality Improvement Program, which is currently under development. Then they want to see if you support or you don't support that statement. Homeowners oppose this plan because nobody can afford to have their bills doubled in the current economy where people are already overtaxed. And 66% of the people said, "You're right. We support that. You can't do that." And then they said, well, with the California economy in such bad shape, government should not make it even harder for people to stay in their homes. And 62% of the people supported that. So they're not getting the answers they want. Then they ask the questions again. Now you got to see what they've just done. This is a typical format of a public opinion strategies survey. They ask you questions, and then they ask you a bunch of questions in the middle, and then they ask you sort of the same questions they did in the beginning to see if they made an impact on what you said. So would you favor or oppose the water quality improvement fee increase? 55% opposed it, and if you remember when we started out, that's about what they made zero impact. And the money from this service charge increase could pay for the construction of facilities to remove chloride from the community's wastewater. Would you favor or oppose this sewer service fee? Remember, they changed the name. Remember, we were talking about the same thing, and they got about the same results. They said, no, we're not going to go for it. So it must have been disappointing to them at best. Now, I just love it. Having gone through this survey and heard both sides of the issue, did you hear both sides of this issue? I didn't hear it. I heard the side that said, we have to build a reverse osmosis treatment plant. That's the side I heard. And it said, how do you feel about Santa Clarita Valley Sanitation District proposal to build treatment facilities to remove chloride from wastewater? And they had a bunch of comments, positive and negative, and 68% of the comments were negative. So this is not gaining ground as gaining public support. So what they did was they tried to fix it by doing another survey. They did another smaller one. And this one is bigger survey. Smaller survey. And what they tried to do was see if they could change some people's minds. They asked similar questions, but this time, they used the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 methodologies and so on and so forth. But they weren't very successful there either. So it looks like they've spent $330,000, and it doesn't look like they've gotten what they wanted for it. Remember what they did was they took this $330,000, they shipped it off to a company called Community Conservation Solutions. Community Conservation Solutions is not a public opinion program. It is a nonprofit organization that encourages the dechannelizing of rivers and returning rivers to their natural state, and Lorraine West is the director of the company. Okay, and if you remember, we saw that they were running some fundraisers for the founders of the company, and guess who was there right in the middle of it? 2 members of the Regional Water Board. So if you remember when we showed how that worked all around the horn, So you can see, and then they turned around and hired public opinion strategies, and it's not any, I don't think it was any accident that it happens to be the same company as what the city does business with. Okay, so I decided, I've been asking people, what does it cost to run a water treatment plant? How much does it cost? How much money does it really cost? And no one wants to tell me. They always say, well, you know, we'll let you know. It's one of those things that they don't really want to tell me. So I had to use the best information I could find. And lo and behold, I just happened to be up north and watching television, and there was Modern Marvels on television. You've seen that on the History Channel, haven't you? And they have a video on salt. It's actually available, and I was trying to find out how old it was, because I know it wasn't done this year, and you know, the older it is, I mean, probably the costs are in some other dollars, but still, it was some information. So they talked to a gentleman who was talking about a reverse osmosis plant in Florida where they desalinate water. Now here, he has a little advantage to us, to us. First of all, he gets his water salty right from the ocean, right next to him. And guess where he gets to throw the brine? Right in the ocean on the other side of him, right? And so I'm sure it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, right? But one of the things that they talked about how reverse osmosis works. And it's very interesting because it's highly relies on lots and lots of electricity, because you have to push that water at very high pressure, and it becomes high heated through these filters. And they talked about the fact that in order to reduce their cost, they were recycling 35% of the energy by capturing the pressure when they were depressurizing the water, turning turbines, and generating electricity. So I thought, well, maybe, you know, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but at least, you know, it's a fair comparison. I didn't hear anybody talking about our plant recovering electricity, right? I haven't heard the word at all. So maybe this is a low number. Who knows? But anyway, they quoted the cost of $3.88 per 1,000 gallons using 35% recycled electricity and brine returned to the ocean. So they didn't have to build a 500-mile pipeline. They were just across the street. And so now if we apply this number to the Santa Clarita wastewater, Santa Clarita is wastewater plants are 20 million gallons a day. 20 million gallons a day translates to 7,300 million gallons per year. Wow, pretty cool. Now, of that 7,300 million gallons, 20% of it is lost in brine, because as the water comes out, as the salt comes out of the water, you lose about 20% of the water in brine. That's, again, according to my friends on Modern Marvels. And so we'd lose 1,460 gallons that we'd have to ship somewhere a year, and it would leave us 5,840 million gallons of processed water. Now, the cost of processing 5,840 million gallons of water at $3.88 a 1,000 gallons is $22.7 million per year. So, using the baseline numbers that we've been using for the amount collected from each household, that would translate out to about $330 per household per year for operational costs. Now remember, the cost of paying back this $500 million occurs over 30 years. You know, it's a bond, so it's not going away. And it doesn't get smaller every year. Remember, the way those bonds work, you actually pay less the first year and you pay more every year until you expect your revenue stream to increase right with it. So we ought to look and see what that's going to do for us in making our household budget. So if we look at this year, or last year, we paid about $215 per sewage unit and to the Sanitation District. But remember, that's not all we pay in this, and I think we should include it all in everything that we need to do to take care of wastewater. We also paid about $40 a year in sewer fees, and those are sewer maintenance fees, which are the smaller trunk lines of sewers in the city. And then we have stormwater fees, and that stormwater fee is to handle ensuring that the stormwater runoff from from the rain and so forth, or from your watering that goes into the gutters, that goes into the river, is clean to some extent. And in Santa Clarita, that cleaning process is street sweeping and cleaning out the pathways to the river. So here comes 2012. 2012, you know, the fees have been set for this year and next year already. That's what happened in 2010. It was a 3-year increase. So they bumped up immediately to $231, at about the average rate that we've seen since Santa Clarita has become its own sanitation district. Since Santa Clarita has become its own sanitation district, fees increased at a historic rate of 11% per year. Okay? I don't know why they didn't do that before they became our own sanitation district, but that's what they are now. Well, if you add the price of a new sanitation plant to that, well, that's another $425 a year. And of course, the sewer fees went up this year to $44.50. And the stormwater fee stayed the same. So if we just started the facility, just started the plant, without starting a plant, we would be paying about $294 a year. With the plant, we would be paying $719 a year. Well, that's not cool. But at the same time, we're not operating the plant yet. So if we look at, let's say, 2015, let's say it's all kicked in by that time, the fees at the current sanitation fees should be up to about $316 a year, based on that 11% per year historic rate increase. And the sanitation and the price for the new plant should be about $442. Now let's throw in another $330 to operate the plant, because it can't stay there unoperated. You know, that would be awful. I don't know what the sewer fee would be, so I just left it at $44.50. And I don't know what the stormwater fee is going to be. I left it at $18.96. But we do know that the county is planning to add another $56 stormwater fee to our bill, because now they want to process do some more processing before they dump stormwater into the river. So that would make the bill $1,207 a year at that point. Basically, about $1,000 more than you're paying now. And by the way, I haven't included the cost of paying back the $23 million that they borrowed to do the design in the first place. That's not included in this. All right? So we're being generous. So this is an important issue. And when you start looking at businesses don't pay one sewage unit. They pay multiple sewage units. And businesses that have a lot of people that use a lot of water, like restaurants and theaters and any place where they're using a lot, they pay a fair number of sewage units now. So we're going to, it's going to hurt them as well. So that's kind of where we stand. So why is the EIR late? Well, it could be because of the survey results. The survey results does show that the community just does not support this effort. And in the next little survey, it was very misleading, particularly in relation to cost, because it did not mention anything about additional operational costs. It tried to bury them as well. And while they're waiting, for whatever reason while they're waiting, could it be that they're now making the Regional Water Board nervous? The Regional Water Board is saying, I'm going to flex my muscles and throw out and ask for a few dollars more right now because I haven't heard from you. You're not talking to me. Or could it be that we have council members trying to put this whole thing off, this decision off, until after the 2014 elections? Because I don't think any council member is going to want to turn around this year or the beginning of next year and now add $1,000 on your property tax bill. That would probably be a retirement package incentive. Okay? And if I found out that anybody was intentionally putting it off, I think it should be a retirement package incentive. So we're just going to have to wait and see. And we're going to have to keep our fingers on the pulse of this thing very, very carefully. Just lastly, we talked about the fact that the Sanitation District is going out and doing inspections of water softeners, and they're looking for the remains of self-regenerating water softeners in our valley. And I got to tell you that I was I was buying Halloween candy on Lyons Avenue at escapes me, at bulk store, and the person right in front of me was leaving there with bunches of bags of salt for water softeners. So they're still here. There are still people selling the product to make them work, so if you know anybody that's had had the inspection, or you've been inspected yourself, I'd kind of like to know, and let me know how that process worked. So if you could find out, I'd appreciate it. So are there any questions? Yes, Maria. Hold on, here comes the mic.
I'm so glad you're on top of this, Al, because this has been driving me crazy for years, and I just wanted to point out another reason we need to continue to fight this. Of course, I've always argued there is no technical basis for this, and recently I poked around on the internet and found that even in the Oxnard area where they grow these strawberries, their discharge limits are double what they're imposing on us. And the farmers are now required to sample their runoff, and their runoff is even higher in chlorides, which means they're adding chloride in the farming process. Yet they are trying to make us give them ultra pure water to dilute what they are introducing, essentially. So there's a lot of reasons that this isn't justified, and it's not just a money issue. I mean, that makes the money issue even bigger. Even if it were justified, we need to find a good solution, but that there's no basis is maddening. And bear in mind, the Water Board could and has revised TMDLs before, and the Water Board also has been successfully sued on TMDLs before. And I don't think we should take that off the table as a community. Lastly, a couple other points. You talked about recycled water. It's less than 10% of our portfolio in way out in future years. Over 30 years, there's some dependence on recycled water, but the cost is extremely high. So the threat of not having recycled water is really a false threat. We could find alternatives, again, for the cost, like conservation efforts. And also the fact that they are trying to pull businesses into this is just appalling, because the businesses are being, this is going to be public, so I won't say it, but shafted on connection fees today, and to try to play the game with the homeowners who are the voters, implying that it won't hurt businesses. This will absolutely hurt businesses, to the point that they're already holding back moving into shopping centers because they don't know what this is. And I know dentists are paying already $6,000 for a dental office. Two-person businesses are paying over $10,000 in connection fees just for sewer today with none of these things. And the BIA estimates that their number of fees per door for a building, $70,000 to $80,000 for a building, they call it per door, but essentially there's a lot of fees on businesses. And if we want to see businesses in Santa Clarita at all, we don't need a conference center. We need to get these connection fees under control, and especially ones that aren't justified. So thank you for doing this and putting this all on the internet. It's a great job.
Thank you.
Well, there's a number of things I'd like to hit on. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time. I have found, I was researching 10 years ago, all of the articles on this issue. And at that time, the Sanitation District was saying, well, reverse osmosis, but we can look at other things. Now, this is 10 years ago. Where are these other things? Just two, as you saw there. What happened in Antelope Valley, you need to know this because it's sort of interesting what has happened. I looked at my tax bill today because we have a house in Antelope Valley. They had hearings. My husband and I made most of those hearings, but there were very few people there. We're lucky in this area that we are fighting it because those people didn't even go to those meetings. My tax bill for the year for the Sanitation District is $448. That is way high compared to what it was. And this is because they got it through, and it's the same Sanitation District. Okay. Then they said, we're going to reduce, if you don't use as much water, and it's not going through our sewer system, and you know about 70% is used on the lawns and landscaping. So they give you this low number, and it's 100 and some per year. I've forgotten the exact number, but you can't even do it. There's no way that you can go that low with your water usage that they will allow just a minute, got to think about this. They won't allow that reduction in your bill. And we've even figured it all out as far as how much is used on the landscaping, and we still can't do it because it's very high. And before, they wouldn't allow it, and this year, the same thing. They've raised it just a teeny, and there's no way you can get lower than that. And the final thing is that I think that and I will go back to this, that if we fight this, it isn't going to be like Antelope Valley and they just sat back and didn't do anything. We do need to be voicing our thoughts on this, and why is it 10 years that they haven't come up with any better solutions?
Yeah, I think we have to keep asking ourselves, and you basically almost did it tonight, why is this reverse osmosis? Reverse osmosis, that's all we want. We have other ways. We all know, and we've had many alternative solutions, but the alternative solutions does not put out pure water. And when the Newhall Ranch project was approved by the county stipulated you cannot use state water. And their own county public works chief that's now retired, still on the CLWA board, has reminded them of that many times at CLWA. You cannot get state water for the Newhall Ranch project. And the Newhall Ranch project, for all those homes, it was originally zoned for 2,100 homes. Now it's zoned for 21,000. That's outrageous. They need water. The water that comes out of an RO plant is pure water. They're not going to put that in the river. It's going to go back into pipelines, and it's going to provide somebody a water source that is not from the state water project, because the groundwater alone perhaps is not going to supply enough water. So there's a real bad need for another water supply, and I think we have it. We have the water supply. They want all of our water that we pay dearly to bring here, use, and pay dearly to process the Sand District. They want it to use for their project. That's my theory of it. Something's driving it. That's what seems to be driving it. And perhaps we're at the point right now where the Sand District is finding difficulty in trying to go ahead with it legally. Perhaps this is a good time to bring this to the grand jury. I think this needs to be exposed. This is not just simple politics. I think this is criminal myself, and we should find out. That would be my suggestion, or like was mentioned earlier, we should keep the possibility of litigation on the table and not put up with this. Thank you.
Okay.
One thing that I'd like to mention, I agree with everything that Maria Goodside said, but in addition, one of our biggest problems, I think, is that this Regional Water Quality Board is made up of people who are not elected. They're appointees, and we don't have any representation on that board. It's all people from other areas, mostly coastal, and then Ventura. So we need to figure out a way where we have some representation on these boards that are arbitrarily setting these standards that don't make any sense and then are imposing them on us.
Okay, well, we'll keep you posted. This is a good topic, and we're not going to let it go. We